All right. Yep. Mic's on. All right. So y'all already see what it is. It's part 5. I know. You guys were like, when's part 5? When's part 5? I was like, I'll be getting to it. But nah, I wasn't actually getting to it at the time. Because I wanted to wait a little while, make you guys anticipate for it. So I did the overhaul arc early on purpose. Don't worry. So everything's still as normal. I'm not changing anything up. All for One is still Deku's deadbeat who got his ass beat. Alright, Deku is now universally known as the next symbol to come. But yeah, this gets Deku popular. Like, everybody wants the agency with him. But you know, he always goes to Mirko's agency because that's his girl. And then, as well as Cammy, they both go there. They do learn a lot of stuff over there, which is good. But you know, Deku basically is everybody else's teacher because he's already fucking a pro hero status. So since like everybody knows that Deku is like pro hero material, they basically like as I'll explain that everybody's gonna be doing their own what's it called? They're gonna be doing the provisional license, right? Yeah. They're gonna be doing the provisional license, right? And then like everybody's about to walk out, and Aizawa stops Deku. And you know, Cammy sees this, and so does Mirko. Mirko doesn't know what's going on. Neither does Cammy. Mirko doesn't know because they wanted to surprise Mirko as well. They're like, you, and then Aizawa gave a smirk. He's like, you, young Midoriya. Well, not young Midoriya. He's like, you, Midoriya, will be doing the provisional license exam, or not the provisional, the license exam. He's like, you mean the provisional? He's like, no, you're going straight to pro hero. And then Deku's like, wait, but that's not how that works, though. Like, he's like, wait, you can't do that? That's not how that works. He explains that Deku beat All For One, the #1 villain, and it would be kind of dumb of them to not make him a pro hero. Deku gets it, I guess, because he's more like, wow, okay, I guess. Endeavor's still on his fuck shit right now. But I'm gonna say after All For One got defeated, like, All Might just retired. He still has One For All, like, a little bit of it. But, like, he just was like, man, I've been doing this too much. Like, the moment Deku gets his pro hero license, he's retiring, right? And he's going to make it public that Deku is his student and now adopted son. So, everybody's gonna be like, next All Might? You know, basically, like, Endeavor will become #1 hero, but everybody will look to Deku as their #1, which will piss off Endeavor extremely. But you know, so you know, Deku's like, okay, I guess, like, shit. He's like, but don't think that it's gonna be easy, kid, because it's going to be hard as hell. And then Deku's like, all right, I'll study up. You know, he's like, I'll study up. He's like, what about training? He's like, I'll train too, but mostly study. I don't feel like I only need to study, really, mostly, but I'll tweak up a few things. You know, Aizawa smiles, because at this point, I remember I said Deku can now use 100% plus his pyrokinesis, which I did not forget about, so he has complete flame manipulation. Fucking, he's so OP right now. But, basically, now Deku, he's walking back to the dorms with Mirko and Cammy, and you know, Mirko's like, holy crap, you know, you're gonna be able to become a hero, you're probably gonna make your own agency at one point. You know, Deku's like, yeah, don't they merge agencies, yada yada yada. He's basically trying to get Mirko in his agency no matter what, because you know, he always wants to be able to keep an eye on her, just because he knows Mirko will like go into any situation, even if it's like really dangerous. So he's not trying to let nothing happen to her, because if you read manga, you need to, he ain't letting none of any shit like that happen to her. Alright? That was a bit of a spoiler, I guess, but I didn't even explain anything that happened to Mirko, you know. So, yeah. So basically, he's like, yeah, what's it called? Can't we merge agencies if like I ever become big enough to make my own agency? And she looks at him stupid. She's like, did you just say if you ever become big enough to make your own agency? Deku's like, you know, that was kind of dumb for me to say. Cammy's like, I'm so interning at your agency, yada yada yada. Because like they're all like sure that Deku's gonna make it in, right? But Deku hasn't been told what his test is yet. And his test is gonna be difficult. Don't think I'm gonna make this shit easy on Deku, because I'm going to make sure this shit hard, alright? You guys going to understand that this shit's going to be difficult. But remember, he has 100% of his One For All, which is better than Prime All Might. So he is going to be dummy strong. Like, it's not even funny. Uh, I don't remember if Shigaraki has one for all or all for one yet. He probably does. I'm just, what's it called? If Shigaraki is all for one, like, I don't know if I made him not get it, but he got it just so Deku has a challenge whenever I continue this series when season 4 or 5 starts. I think season 5. So the way that I'm gonna do this, alright, so Deku, he heads over to the dorms. Everybody's pumped up that they're doing their provisional, and, you know, it's the next day now, alright? They're all heading out. Mirko's with Aizawa. You know, Joke does run up to not Deku, does run up to Aizawa and is like, "Marry me." And, you know, Mirko laughs because she knows about Joke and Aizawa. She's like, "Aizawa, why don't you just accept her offer? It's not like, you know, it's not like you have anyone else who's willing to love you." And then Aizawa looks at her. He's like, "I am actually a very attractive man. I'll have you know, alright?" And then Joke's like, "Well, I mean, I'm the only one out there really trying though. So come on, give me at least a date." You know, I thought I was like, if you stop yelling at me, like, I'll give you a chance. How about that? You know? She's like, deal. Basically, I just made that happen because I'm not trying to be lonely in this world. But yeah, that's not really gonna change anything. So everybody walking up, right? And then Deku stops. He's like, "Well, this is where we part ways for a little while, guys." You know, everybody except for Kami, Mirko, and Aizawa are confused. He's like, "Oh, you guys didn't know? I'm doing the Pro Hero exam." You know? Bakugo, he's like, "What? What do you mean you're doing the Pro Hero exam? You're not hero material." And then Deku looks at him like dumbfounded, like, did you not watch the news, did you not watch the news, my guy? Like, I'm Pro Hero material. Like, they know that I'm Pro Hero material. He knows that I'm Pro Hero. Like, literally everyone who watched that video knows that I'm Pro Hero material. So, you know, basically, Bakugo shuts up because he watched the video. He saw All For One. He knew he couldn't beat All For One. And, yeah, so after that, Deku, he heads to the Pro Hero area. You know, Mirko's like, "Well, good luck. I'll be having to, you know, depart ways with you here." Deku's like, "Oh, okay. I thought you'd have to wait a little bit longer, but that's fine." You know, he's like, "I'll see you later." He gives her a kiss on the cheek, you know. And then after that, he heads back. He's doing the written portions, right? And, wouldn't he be doing this with, like, Mirio and stuff? Yeah, he'd be doing this with, like, Mirio, right? Right? Yeah. No, Mirio and them just became third years, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, he's doing this like before Mirio and all of them. Actually, I think they might already have their. I don't know. I'll just say that Mirio and them are there, and like he's met Mirio like once or twice, and he's also met Nejire and Tamaki like a few times. And he's like, "Oh, hey," and then they're like, "Oh, what are you doing here?" He's like, "Oh, well, did you watch the news that one time?" And they're like, "Yeah, when you fought that villain, you mean?" He's like, "Yeah, they decided that I was Pro Hero material," and they're like, "Oh, shit, okay," like cause they watched the video. Like, Mirio knows he can't beat that, so he's just like, "Shit, alright, I can't even complain." Like, because Mirio was considered to be, you know, the next in line to be number 1, even if Endeavor was, you know, a pro hero, which is crazy shit to imagine. And then after that, Deku, what's it called? Fuck. Okay. After that, Deku does his written portion. Right? He passes that shit with flying colors. He does like amazing. Like, it's basically like hero strategies and stuff like that, and basically simple questions like, "Oh, what is this algebraic formula?" Because they're not trying to have dumb heroes out there. So, you know, basically, like, how would you respond to this situation? And Deku passes it with flying colors because he has a hero's heart. And now it's time for the actual, like, exam. So Deku walks out there, right? And like everybody else goes to their own area, and Deku has his own since, you know, he's the only class 1 year first year, right? Class 1, like first year class 1A, right? So he's the only one, so he's in his own area. They don't do the ball shit like everybody else does in the other provisionals. So right now, Deku, he's stretched, and he's like, "Alright, so who am I fighting?" Because you basically fight a pro hero without any weights and stuff like that. So All Might, falls down. He looks at Deku, he gives him a smile. Deku's like, "Oh shit, okay. I get to fight you, All Might." Because, you know, he knows that he's stronger than All Might. He's like, "Well, I did explain that you are stronger than me, so," you know, after that, Endeavor just lands in there. He's like, "You'll also be facing me, kid." And, you know, Deku's like, "Alright, that'll be a bit more difficult." You know, then he sees the silhouette of a fucking dragon, like the shadow of a dragon. He's like, shit. You know, basically Ryuku lands. She's like, all right, let's see if you can handle this much, kid. Deku's like, all right. I mean, this will be a bit hard. You know, and then after that, like a few feathers fly by. Hawks lands. He's like, hey, kid, this isn't really gonna be fair for you. Deku's like, damn. Next, you guys are gonna freaking bring me Mirko. You know, Mirko hops in there and he's like, I was fucking joking. Like, you know, he was like, so I have to defeat all of you guys. Get to this, like, the fake people who, all these people there are fanboying out because All Might's there, Mirko's there, Endeavor's there, like, all those heroes are there, so they're fanboying out. And, you know, Best Genius is there too because he didn't really get hurt. So, you know, he's like, yeah, I'm here too, yada, yada, yada. You know, basically now Deku's like, alright, you guys ready to get your asses kicked? Like, you know, like, you know, Endeavor thinks that Deku's being cocky. All Might knows Deku's not being cocky. Mirko also knows it. Ryuku is kind of shaky. Hawks also thinks that Deku's being cocky. But, you know, he's like, alright, let's do this. And, you know, he powers up 100% one for all. Because he plans on going for All Might first. And then after that, what's it called? After that, Deku just gets, like, fully powered up, right? He starts floating up a little bit. And Endeavor's like, the fuck is this kid's quirk? Bam, Deku disappears from all of their sights, including All Might's, you know. Then Deku's like behind Endeavor. Endeavor turns around. Deku just flicks him on the forehead. Endeavor gets knocked back into a wall. He's indented to it. I'm not gonna say he's knocked out because Endeavor, I can't do Endeavor like that. Alright? Deku's like, damn, number 2 hero, eh? You know, basically this gets Ryuku and Hawks shook. Like, Mirko was kind of expecting this. All Might was expecting like this much power or more. Or a little bit less, so he's still like a little bit shook. And Deku, like, you know how All Might like gave this like aura of like, yeah, you guys are fucked whenever Bakugo and Deku were fighting him. Basically, Deku's giving off that aura, but like worse. So basically, All Might's like, whew, this shit's intimidating. Like, you know, Mirko, her animal instincts are like, fuck this shit, get out. So is Hawks's, and kind of Ryuku's since she's a dragon. So, like their instincts are like, yeah, get the fuck out. You're not making it. You've lost. Like, you know, Ryuku's like, damn fucking instincts. Like, you know, Mirko's like, so you too. Like, Mirko doesn't feel it as bad because, you know, basically her animal instinct thinks of him as, you know, the mate. So, but what's it called? Deku teleports, like, basically in their eyes, he teleports. He's behind Hawks, and then he grabs the top of his wings and basically like slams him down by using them. And I'm gonna do Hawks extra dirty because of what New God did to me. And what if Deku was, what's it called? What if Deku was the son of Dabi and Hawks? So I'm gonna do Hawks extra dirty in this one. And then Deku just starts dragging his face across the building like how Broly did Goku in the Dragon Ball Super movie. Then just throws him and then grabs him with black whips and slams him. It's not 100% because Hawks would be fucking dead, but Hawks is knocked the fuck out. Like, Hawks is done. And then like after that, like Ryuku tried to do some shit while that happened, but she couldn't do shit. Like, you know, she went big dragon, but like Deku floated up, floated up, she shot fire at him because I don't know if she can actually like breathe fire or not. But let's say she can, so she breathes fire at him. Deku like curves all the fire back, makes it blue, and then throws it back at her. She's like, the fuck, pyrokinesis, and then bam, she gets hit with like blue flames, which do like scorch her a little bit. And after that, Deku just kicks her like chin with like a 100% since she's a giant fucking dragon. So, you know, Ryuku sent like 20, like not 20, 200 feet in the air. All right, I'm trying to lowball Deku here. She sent 200 feet in the air. She lands. Then Deku lands down. He looks at All Might. He's like, "You're next," right? All Might's like, "Oh shit, young Midoriya, this kid's scary." He's like, "Yeah, remember how I said, you know, if you break my mom's heart, I'm gonna kick the shit out of you?" You know, All Might's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I'm gonna give you a taste of that right now. You know, I'm gonna give you a taste. This is a warning, right?" All Might's like, "But this is a test, young Midoriya." You know, Deku's like, "I don't remember asking." You know, he just disappears again. All of a sudden, All Might feels a hand on the back of his head, and his face is in the ground now. Deku then, like, runs while holding on to All Might's face, dragging it through the ground, throws it up, slams it against the wall, and just starts, basically destroying All Might. I'm not even gonna lie. Mirko goes for a kick. Deku just catches it, basically, like, moves her momentum another way. Mirko goes that way with her own speed, so she's able to catch herself. And then after that, Deku just knocks out All Might, hides them so that the people who are watching, who are basically the what's it called? Fuck, I forgot what their name. The captives, the hostages, yes. Basically, the hostages that are playing, the people that are playing hostages don't see All Might. Because the world still doesn't know about Small Might. And then after that, he looks towards Mirko, he gives her a smile. Mirko, she's shook, right? Then, like, she looks, and then she blinks, Deku's gone. She's like, where the fuck is he? She feels an arm around her, like, an arm around her. And then she looks, and she sees Deku. He is taller than her, because Mirko is 5'2". That's crazy. Deku is, like, naturally taller than her, I'm pretty sure. So, Deku is, like pretty fucking tall. So he's looking down at Mirko, right? He has her chin picked up. He's like, you're pretty cute as a villain. Which, gets her red. He blows into her ear. Alright, where was I? Let me check. My mic is on. Alright, yeah, my mom cut me off. She called me. Damn it, I hate it when they do that. But, basically, she blows into Deku, or not Deku, she blows into Deku's ear. Deku blows into her ear, KO! But, nah, he basically just karate chops her. And Mirko's knocked out. Then after that, he gently puts her down, because that's his girl. And then, he runs over to the other guys, like, the hostages and stuff like that. And he's like, are you guys alright? Like, he's playing the part as a hero. And, basically, one of them's like, oh, my ankle's broken. Like, they're just pretending they have these injuries. And Deku, like, pulls the All Might from that video. So he basically, like, lifts them all up on his back. Right? And he basically just walks into the rescue area. Everybody's getting them flashbacks of, like, the old All Might where he saved, like, all those people from a fire. And then he was like, I am here. Like, Deku just basically did that, but, like, he didn't really yell, I am here, because there was no reason to. So everybody's like, yep, that's future symbol of peace. So, after that, Deku, they're like, alright, you passed, Deku stays in the hospital for, Ryuko. Also, Ryuko, All Might, and Mirko, because, Ryuko is his friend because she helped him out find, gifts for Mirko and Cammy. All Might's his stepdad now, and, Mirko's his girl, along with Cammy. So he's staying with them, Mirko wakes up, because she was knocked out the easiest. Deku's like, so, you alright? She's angry with him, because, he teased her in order to win. He's like, geez, I was just joking with you. Calm down, She's hitting him on the chest, but not hard. But, she is hitting him on the chest. Deku's like, either way, come on, let's go celebrate. She's like, what about All Might and Ryuko? He's like, All Might will be fine. He's All Might. And Ryuko will be fine. She's Ryuko. Now, come on. We have to go check on Cammy. So they run over. Cammy, she sees them, and, she's like, all right, how am I going to mess with them? So she walks over with her head held down, right? And Deku, he thinks that she failed, and, he's like, oh, shit, that's going to make her sad. He runs over to Cammy. He's like, hey, Cammy, you all right? She shakes her head no. Deku basically hugs her immediately. He's like, it's all right, there's always the next time. It's going to be fine. I'm here for you, and so is Mirko. Mirko's like, yeah, we both are here for you. And Cammy's like, I'm thankful that you both are here to see me have my provisional license. And, she shows it off. Deku, he was like, he's like, you tricked me. Like, damn it. He's like, damn it, I should have fucking realized, yada, yada, yada. She was like, yeah, honestly, I had to use illusions to not laugh. Which Mirko's laughing because, Cammy pranked Deku, mostly. Because, Deku is, like, the one mostly who fell for it. Mirko thought something was up, so she wasn't fully, alright, let me go run up. Because she knows Cammy's the strongest girl in UA, or in Class 1A. Because, I'm going to say Cammy is, because illusions are so OP. I don't, like, man, I was reading the fucking wiki, right, and it said that Uraka was the strongest girl in Class 1A. I called bullshit. No way Uraka is the strongest girl in Class 1A. No, she fucking isn't. That's bullshit. The only thing that she can beat them in is a ball throw, and that's because, she has a fucking gravity quirk. But not even a gravity quirk, a float quirk. Uraka, who the hell? All right. Deku, after that, he's like, all right, let's go celebrate, yada, yada, yada. All Might got up. He's like, hey, young Midoriya, yada, yada, yada. Kami's like, oh, hello, Mr. All Might, yada, stuff like that. Because, they know Small Might. Small Might walked up to them. They're like, hey, Mr. Yagi, yada, yada, yada. All Might's like, well, do you want me to watch Area while you all three go have fun since you passed, Deku's like, yeah, that would be a huge favor, yada, yada, yada. Eri did congratulate them all on passing, and she was like, whenever we have time, we're gonna go play games, yada yada. She was basically just saying like we're gonna go have fun, right? So Deku, Mirko, and Kami go to the one place where you can party, the bar, right? And they start drinking like there's no tomorrow. They're like, woo, like, I'm a pro hero, like, he just shouts it, and the whole bar is like, yeah, because everybody's happy for Deku because he knows the people around there. I'm just gonna say he's been there a lot. So Deku, he's like, whoa, like, they're partying it up, right? Deku's like, drinks on me, which really means drinks on All Might, but we're not gonna pay attention to that just yet. Deku's about to be a pro hero, so he can pay All Might back soon. But he's like, drinks on me, yada yada yada. Everybody's drinking, then blackout, right? Deku wakes up. He's like, oh my god, He looks to his left and to his right. He sees two lumps in his bed. He's like, oh god, I'm getting a terrible sense of deja vu. So he looks around. There's possibly a stranger in his bed. A pounding in his head. Glitter all over the room. He looks out the window. Yet again, there's pink flamingos in the pool. DJ's passed out in the yard. There's Barbies on the barbecue. He looks at his neck. He looks at his, like, collarbone area. And then there's either a hickey or bruise. He's about to check his phone, but then he hears, a noise. Deku's like, I really hope. Please don't let anything bad have happened. So he moves the sheets, right? And it's Mirko and Kami. You guys thought that I was going to make him cheat. No, it's Mirko and Kami. And he's like, whew. Then he checks his phone. He sees pictures of, basically faces that Mirko and Kami have, which, would make any girl jealous. Basically, he's like, damn, that's not going to look good. Because, they're pro heroes, technically. And then Deku's like, he takes that down. He takes that photo down immediately. Actually, no, we're not going to say it's a face of Mirko and Kami. Basically, it's a picture of, like, Mirko and Kami on Deku. Like, it's just simply that. No Ahegao face here. Basically, so he's like, that's not going to be good. Because he's still a pro hero. Like, that's still not going to look good on him. But he doesn't really care. So he gets up. He's like, oh, God, and then, it's like all over again last Friday night. We're going back to the roots of this what if. Alright? So Deku, he basically wakes them up. They're like, 5 more minutes. Deku wakes them up again. They're like, what the hell happened? Deku's like, we drank like crazy people and now, have a major hangover. Deku did throw up like 5 times. So did Mirko and Kami after they were told what happened. So they're like, what all happened? Like, Deku's like, I really don't know, and I don't fully remember, and it can all be left in the past, honestly. So they're like, yep, I agree, They head back. So we're going to time skip for about a week. Mirko and Kami have been talking to each other about something. Deku's noticed this, but he's not pestering them about it, because they usually talk about girl stuff. So he's working out, right? And then one day, like, he gets approached by Mirko and Kami. They look nervous about something. Deku's like, yo, what's up with you two? They're like, Deku, we need to talk to you about something. Deku's like, okay. Like, what's up? Basically, they pull out a little, like, a little machine thing. It basically tells, Deku looks at it. He realizes it's a pregnancy test. Alright, and the fact that he sees a pregnancy test shocks him, but what he sees after that shocks him even more. Positive on both. All right. Yep. That's what happened. So Deku's like, wait, when? They're like, I think it was when we got drunk. And then Deku's like, we need to stop drinking. Like, you know, he's like, we need to stop drinking. And like, he looks at them, and like, he looks at Cammy. He's like, this isn't an illusion. You're not messing with me, right? You know, Mirko, like, you know, basically Cammy's like, we're not messing with you. He looks at Mirko, he's like, you're not pranking me, right? You know, because Mirko usually laughs if they're pranking him. She's like, we're not pranking you. Deku slaps his face a few times to make sure it's not a dream. Right? He looks at them too. He hugs them. You know, they were like, Deku, he's like, whew, I'm happy it was you two. And, like, if anyone, I'm happy that it was you two. They're confused. Deku's like, what? Did you think I'd be angry, mad, or something? They're like, we were kind of worried about something like that. Deku looks at him. He's like, don't you know me? Like, I'm not going to be angry or mad at you about this. Like, for one, we were drunk. We didn't really know what we were doing. For two, it's you two. If it was anyone else, yeah, I'd hate myself. Hydration. But, basically, they're happy to hear Deku would say that. You know, basically, he's like, oh, wow, I'm going to be a dad, you know? Because now the shock factor is fully hitting in. He's like, wow. But then he realizes something. He's like, oh, shit. They're like, what is it? Deku's like, I haven't even met your parents yet. And they realize this, and they're like, ooh, that's not good. Deku's like, so should we tell them, like, straight away? He's like, and then they're like, well, it would be better if you told them straight away, but we can wait, like, a day. He's like, no, I gotta tell them. I don't know whose family's gonna react worse. Mirko's like, probably mine. Deku's like, honestly, I thought maybe, but I don't know about Cammy's family, really. So he's like, alright, so whose family are we going to first? You know, he's like, they're like, why don't we go to your house and, like, you know, tell Inko and, you know, and Eri and stuff like that, right? And, like, you know, and, Yagi. I forgot All Might's name for a second. Yagi. And Deku's like, yeah, they'll probably be the most understanding and probably the most excited about it. So basically, Deku, he calls up Inko. He's like, hey, is Dad there? Because, you know, he calls All Might Dad. He's like, is Dad there with Eri and stuff like that? They're like, yeah, we were expecting you guys to come home earlier. What happened? No, actually, it's been a week. So they were like, yeah, what's it called? What do you need? Deku was like, I need to talk to you guys with Eri and yada, yada, yada. Can you, like, you know, can you get her? Because, like, he was basically asking them to watch her while he went to the gym. Because they usually watch Eri for him while he does stuff. So Deku, he walks over to them, right? He goes over to the house. He knocks on the door. All Might opens it. He's like, oh, hello there, young Midoriya. He's like, all right, Mom, Mom, Dad, you might want to sit down for this. So they sit down. Deku and Mirko sit down, like, next to Deku, Mirko, and, you know, Cammy sit down next to each other. So he's like, I have something to tell you guys, you know? And then Inko's like, yes. She's like, so, he's like, actually, I have something to ask Eri first, you know? Eri, she gets up. She's like, what is it, Papa? You know? He picks up Eri. He's like, Eri, tell me something. How would you like siblings? You know? Inko is like, what? You know? All Might's like, what? And Eri's like, I would love siblings. You know? He's like, good, because you're getting siblings. And, you know, All Might, like, spits out blood. Inko spits out tea, because she doesn't spit out blood. She spit out the tea that she was drinking. And he's like, yeah, Mirko and Cammy are pregnant. And All Might's like, when did you decide on this? You know, he's like, well, you see, we kind of decided after I became a pro hero. Like, kind of. He's like, why right after you became a pro hero? He's like, I mean, when I say decided, I mean loosely said decided. He's like, you didn't when you got drunk. And, you know, he's like, yeah. Inko, she's like, I wish that you would have chose a better time. But I'm going to be a grandma, so I'm okay. You know? Yada, yada, yada. Deku, he's like, alright, well, now I just have to tell their family. You know, basically All Might's like, wait, you told me you've never met their family. He's like, yeah, that's the issue. I have never met them, you know. All Might's like, ooh, good luck with that one, son, you know. Deku's like, you not helping me? He's like, what do you want me to do? He's like, you're All Might, you have some influence. He's like, yeah, as a pro hero. Yeah, I might have been too far when I said that because I was reaching for some water. And then, what's it called? He was like, you're All Might, you have some influence. He's like, yeah, as a pro hero. Not as like, hey, my son banged your daughter, so forgive him. Nah, it doesn't matter if I'm All Might. Good luck with that shit, man, you know. After that, Deku's like, alright. So do you want to call them for them to come here, or you want to meet them all? You want to meet them all together? Mirko's like, I kind of want to tell my family last because I want their reaction to be saved for later because I like to see theirs. She's like, yeah, honestly, I love my family, but I want to go see their reaction next, like, you know, later. So, you know, Deku's like, all right. He looks at Cammy. Cammy's like, okay, yeah, sure. You know, basically, Deku, he calls up Cammy's family. He's like, hey, we need to meet. I need to meet you. Yeah. There's some stuff that happening. You know, basically, Cammy calls them up, not Deku, but basically, Cammy's parents are like, okay. Deku heads over there with Cammy and Mirko. Because Mirko has to be there too, because they can't just say that and then he's like, oh, by the way, I'm also dating this girl. You know, yada yada yada. So he goes over there. He's like, ooh, oh, this is gonna be fun. This is gonna be nerve-wracking. He's like, I've fought against All For One villains, and this is what scares me. She's like, yeah, parents can be like that. Yeah, and you know, Miracle's like, this will be fun. Like, I can already tell that this will be a fun one. Basically, they knock on the door. Cammy's parents open it. They're like, oh, hello, Cammy, yada yada. Who's these two? And, you know, they recognize Zuko from the news. He's like, oh, you're that villain who fought, what's it called? You're not villain. You're that guy who fought that villain and just became a pro hero, like, really early. He's like, yeah, that's me. And, you know, basically, they're like, oh, and you're the rabbit hero, Mirko. And, you know, she's like, yep, that's me. You know, Cammy is like, well, Mom, Dad, meet my boyfriend. You know, they're surprised because Cammy was dating Bakugo before. They're like, how long have you been dating this boy? Yada, yada, yada. She explains for basically a year now, right? It would basically be around a year. So she was like, yeah, basically a year now. And, well, actually, damn, I just thought about it. They didn't even say that they were engaged. Oh, this is going to be tough for Deku. This is going to be tough for Deku. So Deku basically, he sits down. He sits down with him. He's like, all right, I'm not going to lie to you. I came here because I realized I never met you guys, and we're already basically engaged. You know, they're like, wait, what? You're already engaged? She's like, yeah, she lives with me. You know, I've already bought the ring, and she's wearing it right now. And, you know, they look at the ring. They see this big-ass rock, and they're like, damn, like, you know. Then they're like, so what's the rabbit hero doing here? He's like, well, she's also engaged to me. And, you know, they're like, okay, hold, like, you know, hold up, wait a minute. You know, they're like, that don't add up. Deku, he's like, all right, let me explain. You know, he explains his story. Like, you know, he had gotten cheated on, and so had, you know, Cammy. They were both devastated. And, you know, both their spouses cheated on them. Not spouses, but partners cheated on them. So basically, they decided that why don't they just go out, have a drink, you know, let themselves loosen up. You know, they're like, all right, we get that, we don't get that, but how is she into this, you know? Basically, Deku explains that, you know, Mirko explains that she was having a bad day, and, you know, she actually went out to go, you know, loosen up some stress and stuff like that. So she had gotten drunk, so had Deku and, you know, Cammy, and then one thing led to another. They were all together, and they decided to build that relationship, you know? Basically, Cammy's mom is like, okay, I kind of understand that. Cammy's dad is like, alright, I guess I get that. He's like, well, that's not really the full reason of why I came here today to talk to you guys. They're like, okay, what's the reason why? He was like, well, you know, recently I was announced to be the youngest pro hero ever, right? You know, they're like, yeah, you're a first year who became a pro hero. Deku's like, yes. And, well, after I got my pro hero's license, we had another party where we drank a lot. and we were kind of in the same situation as before, but you know, it was all three of us, so we all recognized each other. But the issue is, I may or may not have gotten them pregnant. You know, basically, like, you know, Cammy's mom is like, I'm gonna be a grandmother. Cammy's dad is like, excuse me, you know, both of them. Like, you mean my daughter too? You know, Deku, he's sweating bullets. He's like, yes. And you know, basically Deku, he gets down, he bows. He's like, I'm sorry that it had to be this way, but I have no plans of at all abandoning or like, you know, basically aborting that child. So even if you don't want her to take care of the child, she, you know, her choice is her choice because she's a full adult now, and I will be in that child's life, you know, basically stuff like that. So, you know, basically Cammy's dad sees the, you know, basically the fury in Deku's eyes, so he's like, I was gonna punch you, but you seem like a good kid, alright? You don't seem like you would do this because, you know, you're just some backstreet punk like that Bakugo kid. So I'm gonna let you off. But you better, you know, he grabs Deku by the shoulder. He's like, you better do damn right by my daughter, or I swear to God, I don't care if you're a pro hero. Deku's like, I got you. You know, he's nervous because this man's intimidating. But now Mirko's family. We'll say that Mirko, because like Mirko doesn't seem like she's an only child. She seems like she's a younger sister to like a few older brothers, cause like how Mirko acts. So basically, Mirko calls up. She's like, "Hey mom, hey dad, I need you to get my brothers. We all need to have a family talk for a while, and I need you all to meet someone." You know, they're like, "Okay," you know, they're like, "All right, Mirko, whatever you say, yada yada yada." So they all head towards Mirko's house. You know, after that, you know, they get in there. They see, you know, a woman that looks like, you know, an older Mirko, but she's still a lovely woman. They see, you know, a man that looks very intimidating, Mirko's father, and they see we'll say Mirko has 4 older brothers, because I just want to make this funny as shit. So they see like 4 other intimidating men, because she's the youngest, we'll say. So they see like 5 intimidating men and the one nice woman, you know. Basically Deku sits down. He's like, he's 5 times as nervous because there's 5 of them. So he's like, hello there. And he's like, hey. They're like, who are you? Deku's like, well, oh yeah. Let me backtrack a bit. Right? By the way, Eri was there with Cammy and Mirko at Cammy's house, right? I'm backtracking a little bit. I have to backtrack. Goddamn. So they look at Cammy, or they look at Eri, who's behind, you know, who's basically like behind Deku. You know, she peeks her head out, you know. They see her, they're like, so who's this like little bundle of sunshine? You know, he explains, this is Eri, you know, she's my adoptive daughter. They're like, you adopted a kid? He's like, yeah. He explains the situation that Eri was in. So, you know, that also upped the boost of respect that upped the respect boost that, you know, Cammy's dad had for Deku. So, you know, basically that was what really built the trust, as well as the look in Deku's eyes. So after that, now we get back to Mirko's family. So Deku's sitting there, you know, Mirko explains, yeah, this is my boyfriend, yada yada yada. You know, basically Mirko's mom is like, oh, I'm so happy for you. I didn't think you could get a boyfriend, yada yada yada. You know, you were so headstrong, yeah, this and that. You know, Deku, he's like, yeah, you know. They're like, so who's this other girl? You know, basically Deku, like, you know, Mirko takes a deep breath. She's like, well, this is also his girlfriend, you know. Like 5 people stand up, and Deku's like, I'm about to die. Like, you know, he's thinking to himself, I'm about to die. You know, Mirko's like, hold up, before you jump the fucking gun. She explains the situation, basically. And then they calm down a little bit, because they get it, I guess. They kind of like, okay. I mean, that makes sense, you know. And then Deku's like, by the way, we are engaged, you know. They're like, what? You know, why didn't you tell us that? They look at Mirko. She was like, I was planning on telling you guys for the wedding, yada, yada, yada. And we were planning on waiting, like, a little while for a wedding, you know. Basically, they're like, all right. But, so, they're basically like, so, why are you here? Is that why you're telling us about this? You know, they see Eri, they notice the white hair, they look at Mirko, white hair. They notice the, you know, the kind looking eyes. They look at Deku, kind looking eyes. They notice red eyes, Mirko has red eyes. They're like, hold up, how old is this kid? And then basically Deku's like, she's 6, why? And they're like, they look at Mirko, they're like, when did this happen? You know, Mirko realizes what they're saying. She's like, no, she's adopted, you know. They're like, oh, and Deku basically got it after that. He's like, oh, no, we didn't know each other that long. We knew each other for about a year, you know. And after that, they explain like the situation of like how they were dating, why they did this, what happened, yada yada yada. You know, he's also like, and the reason why we're here is because after after I got my Pro Heroes license, I'm the youngest, you know, Pro Hero. They're like, okay. He's like, he's like, alright, I got your daughter pregnant, you know? Like, he looks at, like, Mirko's dad, he's like, I got your daughter pregnant. And, you know, basically, Mirko's dad, he's looking at Deku, he's like, he's his animal instincts, like, they know Deku's stronger, but his dad instincts, alright? Because we'll say that Mirko's dad has the same quirk, but, like, maybe, like, he doesn't have as much of a boost as Mirko. So he didn't believe that he could be a hero when Mirko wanted to prove him wrong, so basically, he's like, alright, you know. He grabs Deku by the shoulder, he's like, alright, so, I've seen you fight. I know you're stronger than me, so I'm not gonna really attempt to fight you. Deku's like, so you're mad at me, you know, he's like, what if I say that, you know, you can't have, you know, you're not, like, being able to be near this child? Deku says, I refuse. He's like, what do you mean you refuse? He's like, I refuse. He's like, alright, what if it comes between your heroing career and my, you know, my granddaughter, technically, or grandson? Deku's like, I'll choose my children over the hero career. He's like, those are my kids. I'm not abandoning them. Like, he's like, I'm not about to be an all for one, like, you know. That's his mindset right now. You know, basically, he's like, alright. What if I tell you right now you can't ever be with my daughter again? He's like, I don't care. I'm still going to be with her. She's an adult. She can choose for herself. I'm an adult, and I can choose for myself. Because they're in college. Deku is around, like, at this point, 19. So, like, you know, Mirko's father is like, alright, I like you, kid. You have some resolve. And, you know, basically, Mirko's brothers are like, hold up, wait a minute, hold up. You gonna have to box with us. Like, you know, they're like, yeah, you need to go through a rite of passage first. Deku's like, you know, Mirko looks at them, she's like, you don't want this. You know, she looks at them and she's like, you guys do not want this fight. Basically, they're like, come on, like, he ain't that strong. 5-on-1, like, come on, we'll show him what's for. And we'll say that their quirk is as strong as Mirko, and they are as strong as Mirko, but they just chose not to become a hero for some dumb reason. I don't get it, but they just did. And if you're mad about it, I just want Deku to be able to show that he's way fucking stronger. So Deku walks out there. He's like, so, how much do you want me to try? You know, Mirko's like, don't give him full percentage, you freaking idiot. I know you'll hurt him if you do that. She was like, he was like, I wasn't gonna hurt him. You know, soon they're gonna be my brothers. You know, a few of them get pissed off from this. Others are thinking like, this kid's cocky. You know, after that, Mirko's dad is watching this because he's trying to see the fuck Deku's about. Deku's like, I'll give you a taste of 100% and then I'll lower it down a bit for you. You know? And then Deku, like, he goes 100% real quick. You know, they rush him. Deku disappears from their sight. So he's basically standing behind them. Like, he's standing, like, next to Mirko's dad. He's like, so do you think they'll notice that I'm not actually there? Like, because they're running at an after image. And he's like, you can make clones? He's like, no, that's an after image. He looks back and that Deku fades away. And they're like, the fuck? What the hell? Deku's like, so you guys done? And they see Deku standing next to their dad. They're like, how the hell did you get there? Deku's like, I'm fast. They're like, okay, but are you strong? And we'll say that they're in the training grounds. So basically, Deku, like, blitzes behind one of them. And, you know, he does the Saitama shit where he throws a punch, but he stops. And we'll say the wind pressure, like, goes around him. So it does, like, destroy a lot of this training ground. So he's like, alright, you guys want to keep going? And a few of them want to chicken out, but they're like, nah, that's our sister, we can't chicken out. Deku's like, alright, I'm not gonna go 100%. I'll give you guys 20. Like, he's like, I'll give you guys around maybe 50. Like, 50. Fuck it. You know, they're doing good now because it's 5 against 1. So 50, or not 5, it's 4 against 1, so 50%. Still is doing pretty good work. He's still, like, he knocks out one, knocks out the other, and then there's 2v1, and then Deku just, you know, basically he's like, alright, now I'll use my other quirk, you know. They're like, other quirk? Then Deku shoots pyrokinesis at him, wraps one with, like, a flame whip, and wraps the other one with black whip. You know, he's like, alright, then, alrighty then, you know, he smacks them together, knocked out, you know. Deku's like, easy win, you know. He's stretching, he's like, easy wins. And they're basically, you know, Mirko goes over there. She's like, well, you didn't have to go that hard on him. He was like, yeah, but, you know, I had to prove, you know, strength, because it seems like your family respects strength. She's like, fair enough. You're right. So basically, they get up after a little bit, because, you know, they ain't bitches. So they get up. They're like, all right, you prove you a little bit strong. Deku's like, a little bit? All right. That's why it was 50%, but we don't talk about that. So then they're like, all right, so you're planning the wedding before they have the child, right? Deku's like, of course, you know. And now they did see, you know, Eri, and they were like, we're uncles, ooh yeah, because, you know, they did want to be uncles. And let's say that none of them actually, you know, a few of them have a girlfriend, one of them's single, you know, but none of them have kids. So Mirko is the first. So they're like, yeah, we're uncles, you know, because now that they're cool, Deku, they'll party about it. And now we'll time skip a little bit, we'll time skip a few months, not the pregnancy yet, but basically Mirko did announce that, you know, yes, she is pregnant, yada yada yada. So she will be on leave for a while, and after that, you know, it's the wedding times. Mirko, Cammy, they're both in the dress, they're both getting walked down the aisle. Deku, he's nervous, but he's not crying, because this Deku ain't no bitch. Alright, he's nervous though. He's like, do you take these two to be your awfully wedded wife? You know, that stuff. I can't really do that stuff because, you know, I'm not all sappy, but I'll try. So, do you, young Midoriya? We'll say... The moment I said young Midoriya, I thought All Might. So, we'll say All Might has the fucking... The priest license to do this shit. So, he's like, do you, young Midoriya, take young Mirko and Cammy to be your awfully wedded wives? He's like, I do. Do you, Mirko and Cammy? Or Mirko, take Midoriya and Cammy, technically, to be your awfully wedded husband and wife? I do. Do you, Cammy, take, you know, Mirko and Deku? She interrupts him. Of course I do. You know? And he's like, does anyone have any objections? And, you know, Bakugo, boom, busts open the door. Deku, you're getting married? I object. You know, Deku's like, oh my fucking god. He's like, fuck this guy, like, what the fuck is this issue? You know, he's like, the fuck do you want, Bakugo? Bakugo's like, no way you're marrying two hotties. I'm gonna steal them from you, yada, yada, yada. He talks shit, and Deku's like, bro, it's my fucking wedding day. Can you fuck off? He's like, yeah, first I'm gonna kick your ass, then take you away and just only leave you with that ugly brat of yours. Deku gives him a dead look. He's like, the fuck did you just say? He's like, yeah, I'm gonna take your girls and then leave you with your ugly little brat. Boom. Bakugo sent out of the fucking church. He's like, I'll be back soon. You know, he looks at them, he gives them a smile. I'm like, he's like, I'll be back. You know, he disappears. They're like, ooh, Bakugo's dead, right? And we'll time skip a little bit. Bakugo's in the hospital. He wakes up. He looks to his right. He doesn't have an arm. His right arm is gone, right? He looks to his left. His left arm is in fucking pieces. His legs shattered. his spinal cord, like he can't feel nothing. Like, basically, recovery girl, she walks up, she's like, you a dumbass, you know that? Then, basically Bakugo's like, what the hell are you talking about? Recovery girl's like, yeah, you got fucked up. Like, I'm not even gonna lie to you. You got fucked up. She's like, yeah, honestly, being a hero, not within your DNA anymore. It's over for you. Being a normal human, like walking around, using the bathroom normally, that might be done for you too. Not even gonna lie. Unless you take, like, heavy therapy for that shit. He's like, what? What do you mean I can't be a hero? He's like, Deku beat the quirk out of you, Bakugo's like, the fuck did you say? And he tries to shoot an explosion. Nothing happens, right? And then, basically, she's like, he beat you so damn hard, you sweat normal sweat now. You don't sweat nitroglycerin. Basically, Bakugo, he's like, the fuck, because he doesn't basically sweat nitroglycerin, because he would smell like nitroglycerin. So he smells like normal sweat. He's like, what? He beat the quirk out of me? Is that possible? He's like, recovery girl's like, shit if I fucking knew, but hey, you make new science discoveries every day. That's what you get for calling Eri an ugly brat piece of shit. She walks out. After that, someone else walks into the hospital. Uraka, she walks in. She's like, hey, Bakugo, yada, yada, yada. Sorry, sorry I haven't been visiting, right? Basically, Uraka's phone goes off. Uraka's like, ooh, I have to go. Bye, Basically, she's leaving, but, before she can fully leave, she forgot her phone. She put it down and she forgot it, right? Bakugo, with the little strength he has, he picks up the phone. He said, and then he sees Minoru Mineta. Hey, floaty bitch, come over. So, yeah. Yeah, that's tough. Bakugo is at this point crying because, not only can he no longer be a hero, but, his girlfriend is cheating on him with fucking Mineta. And then, Bakugo is just crying. And, we'll time skip, we'll time skip again. Deku, he's chilling out at home, right? Mirko's like, finally I put those two demons to sleep, Cammy's like, I just got my one to sleep. And, yes, you did hear, two demons. Mirko had twins, because rabbits do that a lot. Rabbits will have a lot of fucking kids. But Mirko had twins. And, what's it called? And Cammy had one. So, basically, Deku's like, well, I love you too. He hugs them both. And that's where I'm going to end this off, right? So, when the next season comes out, I'm going to do that stuff. I'm going to find a way to work around, basically work with Mirko and Cammy and Deku having kids. As well as, Eri being their child. Which Eri loves her siblings. Because we'll say Mirko had one boy and one girl. And also, and Cammy had one girl. So basically, Eri loves her sisters and brother. So, yeah. And that's where I'm going to leave this off. Hopefully, you guys have enjoyed. I'll see you guys on this series whenever the next season finishes. Because I'm not going to do it while the next season is going. I'm going to do it when the next season finishes. So you guys have to wait a little bit, even if the season, gets through. But, yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed. And peace out. Later.
I don't preach, yeah, yeah. I just teach. I am peeping your potential. See the hero you can be, yeah, yeah. I don't speak, yeah, yeah. It's just me. If you ain't about that work, motherfucker, you can leave, yeah, yeah. I don't preach, yeah, yeah. I just teach. I am peeping your potential. See the hero